In this video, we are joined by very, very special guest, Jay Drunk 3PO, to talk all about Disney vloggers, the state of the vlogging community. We're going to talk about, should Disney be worried about Epic Universe? We're going to talk about Daddy Josh and all those maybe, kinda, we'll see announcements at the last Destination D. We're going to break it all down, talk about it with Jay up next. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. So let's get started. I'm going to start with Jay. Jay, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media. And I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking parks with us, talking Disney vlogger. It's going to be a great time. Thank you so much, Jay.
Oh, no problem. I mean, for more little hot takes, you can all things Drunk 3PO, or it'll say like JD3PO. But for theme park stuff, you can find me over on this channel called Park Hoppin. Me and Chris Nova and Tom, the Rogue Attraction, and several others. We all like talk about our love for all kinds of theme parks. So it's gonna be a great year there because I'm like traveling to Dollywood. Hopefully, I'll make it out. I'm almost like 99.9%. I'll be in the California, parks, all that stuff. So maybe I'll bump into some OG 55.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You never know.
Oh, I can't wait for you to check out Cali, man, because I know you're a big Indiana Jones fan.
Yes.
That ride is gonna blow your mind.
That's what I hear.
It's pretty awesome. But again, thank you so much for joining us, Jay, today, talking parks with us. And down below, we got Citrus George, host of our Walt Disney World show here on the channel, live on location. George, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could follow me on X at Disney George. You could also check me out on the podcast A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And I have to say, I'm kind of jealous right now because you got Jay Drunk 3PO got an arcade behind him. We got Jay Shearer with a table read behind him. OG, you got your iconic shelf over there, and I got a hotel room door and some god-awful curtains.
It's all good. It's all good. You make up for it, George, because you're super sexy. So it's all good.
There you go.
And down below, we got Mr. Jay Shearer. Well, welcome back, sir.
Always good to be talking with you guys, and always fun to have Jay around.
Hey.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Even though I'm rocking a Universal Studios resort hat just for you guys, I thought I'd mix that a little bit. So, yeah, there you go, Universal. Thanks for the free hat. Endless Summer Resort.
Nice. And Mr. Shearer, if you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media, what's going on with you.
You can find me on X over here. You can also find me How Stories Work with Jay Shearer. We have a table read coming out tomorrow. I've officially scheduled it. You can go watch a table read of our new short film, No Vacancy. We're going to do the table read on YouTube and part 1 and part 2, and then we're going to film the actual film in November. So check out How Stories Work with Jay Shearer. And if you want, you can check out my conversation with this guy right here. He was on talking about Achromatic Blue. Had a fantastic conversation. So go check that out as well, How Stories Work with Jay Shearer.
Absolutely. Now, before we dive into these topics, I have to address something extremely important. Jay, what is your opinion on candy corn?
I am the candy corn king. I am the candy, and I mean, I don't like all that funny stuff. There's like they went off brand. You can buy like I don't know, like weird, like pumpkin pie candy corn.
Weird.
Just weird flavors are out there. Strawberry. No, I like original. I'm OG original candy corn. Put it in a big bowl. I'll stick my big sweaty paw in it and grab a bunch and like go to town. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now, is that your favorite? Is that your favorite candy?
No, it's not. It's not my favorite. But it's just such a listen. Anytime I tweet about candy corn or talk, it is like such a massive debate. It's like you either hate it, it's candle wax and crayons, or it's like, no, I love it. It tastes good. Like there's no middle ground. You know,
It-
it's like it's massively. It's like, and you know what? I kind of enjoy the break of like the nonsense on social media. So it's like I'll tweet out something about candy corn, and like just seeing everybody like go back and forth. It's a lot of fun. So, but yeah,
it,
candy corn king right here.
it's kind of like the pineapple on pizza debate, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I mean, it gets people riled up on social media. It's hilarious. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So I want to talk to you now. Jay, you do you have your Park Hopper channel. You do a lot of great content over there, having fun at the parks, all that good stuff. Well, what's your thoughts right now on like the current state of like the Disney parks vlogging kind of community or whatever? I mean, for a while there, like I think like in 2017, 2018, it seemed like everyone was getting into it. Now it seems to be it's in a weird spot. Like where do you kind of see it right now?
I think I think a lot more people are trying it because if you cross over to a certain part on this vlogging stuff, it can be massively successful.
Oh yeah.
And generate a lot of money for you. We've seen people at the park vlogging from YouTube, and they have another cell phone where they're live streaming from TikTok and YouTube at the same time, walking through the park. For me, the biggest hiccup that's happened to theme park vloggers, and it's kind of it's just kind of norm here in Orlando. I don't know about California, but it was the Galactic Star Cruiser really opened a lot of people's eyes, because many of the vloggers that got to go for free didn't tell people they went for free, and they were facing with a lot of backlash when they were telling people, oh, you should go and enjoy it, when a lot of people that watched a lot of the walkthrough through the parks are people that can't afford it as often as they'd like. So that's why they enjoy these like people going live from Disney or Universal and stuff, because it's like it makes me feel like I'm there, even though I'm several states away, and saving up money to go and stuff like that. The other thing too is that vloggers, and I'm part of the problem, and I'm trying to do better, but vloggers and resellers are becoming, at least here in Orlando, it's like, okay, there's a new cupcake, well, or a new plushie that's out. Let's just say that plushie. All the vloggers will try to be there the first hour, and it's flooded with them, and then of course the resellers are right behind them, where they buy them all up. So it's like whoever's gonna get there first. So it isn't a weird thing. There are a few that are stepped out. I will say this: Nate Paging Mr. Morrow, who's a friend of mine, his channel has exploded. Like he's getting up there to like 10 tracker status when it comes to his videos and stuff like that. It's I'm very happy to see that. But a lot of people try, and we also have, I don't know if you have this in California, we have a lot of Instagram influencers now that have like really cracked on the scene, and they probably could be the rudest people ever, because they're trying to wear like the full outfit in front of the castle with no people. They don't want anyone else in that shot. So like their photographers are there, and they're like, excuse me, can you just back away? It's like, no, we paid for a ticket. We're going to walk and look at the castle like everybody else. But they get there extremely. You could see, like, if you ever get to like rope drop at the park, they get there really early, and you could see people in these elaborate dresses that are just matched. They're beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Like, from the ears to the dress to the shoes, they want that perfect shot in front of the camera, because it gets a lot of clicks, and they could get to this program where they end up getting free stuff, from Disney or other resellers of Disney's type stuff that matches the Disney ears. So it's massive.
Well, it's interesting. You touched upon a great point, Jay. Like with the free access to the Star Cruiser and stuff like that. It's like if people are going to go to this stuff for free, right? You got to disclose that. Like if you're giving a review on something and you get access there and you're not paying a dime to go, you got to be honest with your audience and say, hey, look, my experience was this. As someone who had a free trip. Just keep that in mind, and then just not to disclose that. That feels dirty to me.
Yeah,
right?
and some of the theme park vloggers that I know personally, because I bump into them, they were like, it got ugly. It got ugly because people, I'm not going to put in any names, but to the point where I did a lot of, on my personal channel, I talked a lot about the Star Cruiser, not in a positive light, I personally felt that it was way too expensive for the experience that they were offering. If the price was a lot cheaper, I probably wouldn't have anything to say. I was just based on cost over experience. And some of these vloggers, they messaged me asking me not to use their clips in my videos. And it wasn't like they were mad at me. They were like, we just don't want any like heat or anything. And I respect that. I respected that. So, I just, whatever. I did my best to honor what they asked me to do. But yeah, I was only given one free trip through this whole vlogging experience, and that was to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, for their hollow screen. And yeah, like from the first click, it's like, hey, this was bought and paid for. Like, I want all y'all to know, like, I appreciate them like giving me like a free pass, and I showed them like this is my free VIP pass, and that was like the first 2 minutes of the video. So
That's
other than
great.
that, like we haven't been like there's media, like I'm sure it's the same in California, but there's like media day, and vloggers flock to that. So it's like for Halloween Horror Nights, just for example, Halloween Horror Nights here at Universal Studios, you can't record in the houses. They don't want you to take pictures of a lot of places, especially because it takes away the experience if there's like flashes going off and stuff. So they have like a 3-day period. It might be longer, where it's like a media week where if you have a pass, you're allowed to record in the houses and you're allowed to record certain things. And that is like that's like the golden goose, because if you have that kind of access, you're going to get a lot of views, and a lot of views make a lot of revenue. So a lot of, if you're doing this if this is your full-time job, you want that access and be the first ones to get the videos out. I mean, we're talking, people that get 1 million views on a video because nobody else, like people like me, are not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, we respect the rules. I don't have a media pass. We never applied for one. We do things a little different on Park Hoppin. We just try to go from a little different perspective of like the common folk,
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
We're not first on a lot of things, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they fight for that access. And
that's wild. And people watch you, I think, because you guys have great chemistry. You're hilarious, and that's why, like, there's this whole first culture out there that you talk about, and it's totally a thing. And Instagram, I'm telling you, Instagram has been the root of so many problems in our society right now. Like with these Instagram girls and stuff on there and stuff, simping's at an all-time high, right? It's like, it's crazy out there right now. But there's this whole culture around that, right? And the thing I love about what you guys do is it's just, like you said, it's very like grounded. You guys are just friends hanging out, having fun, joking around, and it's refreshing. I love what you guys do over there at Park Hoppin. And I will be linking, by the way, his channels down below, so everyone check him out. And
appreciate it.
Absolutely, and subscribe. Now, Mr. Jay Shear, you watch a lot of Disney Park vloggers, or not so much? What's your take on the Disney Park vlogging thing?
I do watch. I watch way more vlogs than I should watch. there's no reason for me to watch these vlogs, but I watch them anyways. Well, it's interesting because Jay, you kind of mentioned this when you started to talk. Like, it feels like a lot of people are just doing the same thing. Like, it's become. It used to be that there was differentiation amongst the groups, right? Like, you would go, okay, cool. Magic Journeys is going to give me some food reviews, which they still do. They're one of my favorites, by the way. I've met them in person. They seem super cool. But there's this emphasis on being first. So now you're seeing, like, whether it's you go from like Vlogger 1 to Vlogger 2 to Vlogger 3 to Vlogger 4, they all have the same video. It's all the same. So then they're only differentiating at that point based on their personalities. They're not really differentiating on much else. Maybe on the quality of their filmmaking. So it just seems like, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, because you're the only one that does this in this channel, right? But it seems like the reservation system at Disney has also pushed some of that forward, because they can't go as often to do like just a food review or just a construction update. They're having to do multiple things as they go because they have less access, it seems like to me. They're not going
not
every
anymore.
day.
It's all changed. So
with you guys, you don't have any reservations.
We do, but if you have a certain annual pass, like after 2 o'clock, you can go. You don't have to make a reservation.
Got it.
And it's like there's a lot of these vloggers that are connected with a lot of people on the inside, and they have like different like Facebook groups like that are private that they're part of, and they get told like, hey, make a reservation for May 8th because they're going to drop something new here, and like so they get early access. And this was told to me by some of these prominent vloggers, and I'm like, well, put me in the group, man. Come on. It's like, well, you know, it's
so Disney is sliding into these people's DMs and telling them like when things are going to drop and everything. That's wild.
Well,
that's wild.
It's definitely a group, and one of the. So this is true, and I've talked about this live multiple times. There was Epcot here. They change around this ride called the Living with the Land. They change it around for Christmas. And, you know, then they'll announce like when that will happen. And at this particular time, everybody needed a reservation, no matter where you were. And it was still pretty heavy with the distancings and like the lockdown stuff that was available. I happened to have a reservation at Epcot the day that they flipped it. I just got lucky. And so I was there, and I went to ride the land when it got dark because if you've never done it, it's just a special thing where they just decorate everything Christmassy in that ride. And there was a lot of theme park vloggers that were already there. And I'm like, how the heck did y'all know like it was today? So if you meet me, I'm 6'4", 270. I am a big boy, so I have no fear of like walking up to these little guys and just saying, like, how did y'all know? Man, did y'all get lucky like me? Because all you guys know each other. There was like 15 of them. Everybody's laughing. Everyone's going out to eat afterwards, but they all recorded the same thing. And the two ones that I know well, they're like, oh man, we're part of this group. They just tell us like months in advance when this stuff is going to happen. And I'm like, well, that ain't fair. Put me in that group, right? It's like they still haven't put me in that group. But that's not kind of like what Park Hoppin is about. It's like I said, we've just had an attitude of if we go there and there's something new, cool. If not, we're just going to be like, well, yeah, today was a day that a bear like ran through Magic Kingdom and closed everything down. So pretty crazy. So yeah, but at the end of the day, listen, I respect people's hustle. I understand they got to make money for their families. I get that. And for some of these people, it has turned from a joy to a job, and you make a lot of money being first. So all power, all power to them. The only thing that I wish, and I'm not saying any of them are not, but I wish that some of them were a little more honest instead of saying everything is perfect and great. Like, that's all. I get a little tired of the same old, oh, man, this is great. Oh, eat this cupcake. It's great. Oh, my gosh, this new ice cream is wonderful. You got to try it. Oh, this is perfect. You got to get it. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, sometimes it just ain't good. And that goes for any park, SeaWorld, Universal, whatever. It's like, it's some of it's not good, at any park. It's just like they missed the mark. At least for me, and I can be honest with myself. They put too much sugar in this one. This one doesn't have enough, or this one is this, or this one is great, and this one's a little too greasy for me. So it's like we just try to, to hit on that.
And that's what we do. And that's what we do here at OG55. We're just brutally honest. If something is right, it's right. And that's why we don't get no media passes.
That was my next thing. I was like, I probably why I don't get, a media pass. But I'm sure OG was a little like way back in the day when I'm like, I love you guys' channel. You're like, what? This guy? How does he like this channel? Like, he's supposed to hate everything. It's like, no, we're not all like that.
No, you love this stuff. I could tell you love this stuff. You have a passion for it, and it's fun. It's fun to like. I don't know. That's the thing too. Like when it comes to this park stuff, I think there's so many like what's the word for it? People get into like these like cliques or whatever, where it's like, oh, that person has a different mindset, so we're not gonna associate, or this, that, and the other. And that's one thing here, like OG, I hate that echo chamber, right? Like I always encourage people to come on, like, hey, we disagree, oh, come on, let's talk about it, let's and I think it's more fun. And it kind of goes Jay, to what you were even saying a minute ago, where it's like, if you don't like something at the parks, you say, oh, that one had too much sugar. Oh, that one's bitter. That one doesn't taste good. And people want that. People like that authenticity. They crave it, you know? It's refreshing because you're right. There's so many people out there just kind of, oh, everything's perfect. It's like, no, not everything is perfect. And I can test for that. George, what was that thing at a vendor's campus? Oh God, the beer cheese?
The beer cheese, and then for me it was that damn what was it? That milkshake. Oh my God! See, and that's the thing. See, I don't like overcompensate things. Like you could say, it's okay, but it's not to my preference. No, I'll just come out and say, no, this tastes like shit.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I think for you, OG, I think it was the beer cheese.
Yeah, the beer cheese, and yeah, you got that peanut butter shake thing. I was like, what?
And then they added those boba balls to it that just like completely like threw it off.
I don't know.
But like, that's the thing is, I don't mind them trying something different because that is the beauty of like theme parks. You're not. We had at Epcot they did a pickled milkshake, right? And people were like getting millions of views on their TikToks for trying the pickled milkshake at Epcot for the festival. And some people said they loved it, some people said they hated it, but it's like I'm glad that they make different things for different people. And you get, like you said, you get into an echo chamber where everything is awesome. Then it's like, well, how boring is that? It's like,
right.
it's so you'll never have a favorite of anything. You'll never have a favorite restaurant. You'll never have a favorite ride, and you'll never have.
Well, all I know is for the people that like that peanut butter and jelly boba ball milkshake, they must enjoy an octane rating because that thing was.
I'm telling you. Well, it's like going on a date, right? Like I wouldn't want to date somebody that like I'm sitting across from her and the girl's just like agreeing and loving everything that I like. I mean, that's boring, right? Like you want somebody who's gonna like push back a little bit, like, no, you're wrong.
Challenge your
I had that for 10 years, OG. What are you talking about?
It's hilarious. That's hilarious. So let's switch gears now to this Josh D'Amaro stuff, right? Because it's kind of interesting. So D23 was a year ago this month, I believe. He came out and he gave a bunch of maybe, what if, beyond Big Thunder and all that stuff, right? And fans were pretty mad, It seemed like he was kind of focus grouping the expo, basically. So we thought, okay, Destination D23, which was just a few weeks ago. He's going to give us something, probably more detail on this Beyond Big Thunder thing. I mean, he has to, right? And he kind of does a lot more of the maybe blue sky stuff at this Destination D23. And he adds more to the table instead of kind of like solidifying the stuff that he sort of teased a year ago. Jay, I'll start with you. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, what's with this? Like, even when Chapek was running the parks, he didn't do this. Yeah. Like, when he announced it opened, right? It was a greenlit thing, ready to go. Why is Josh doing this stuff?
I think there's a little nervousness at Disney at the parks right now. I think there's just a little nervousness, and they're trying to build some kind of excitement. And I don't like it personally because now it's like they could literally come out and like, we're gonna make a giant Empire State Building with a blimp. Maybe. Here's a concept art. All right. You'll never hear us talk about it again, and it's like we'll let all the little vloggers talk about it on their live stream and everything, and when we finally actually do break ground on something, it'll be something completely different. I totally get why people are, they get upset at that kind of stuff. And even now, like the announcement of $60 billion being invested into their theme parks from Bob Iger over the next 10 years too is just still kind of like, huh, okay, like what's that gonna look like? Like where are you getting that money, number one? And then number two is, what are you gonna do with it? Because I can't speak for California, but one of the biggest complaints that we have here at Disney World is that there's sections of the park that are just really run down, and it looks like they put together kind of cheap, and they can fix some of that stuff up, they could clean up. I've always loved, the thing that I loved about going to the Disney parks compared to any other park is that some of the old school stuff, the attention to detail is just like, man, chef's kiss, man. It's just like you could ride a ride over and over and find little detailed things everywhere, and it's like, that's awesome, and it just was something magical about it. Like, you know, you could even watch like the Carousel of Progress like 3
Yeah.
times and just look at different angles and just see different things. And it's just it was awesome. And now it just seems like there's a lot of rush to it. And for instance, like when they opened up Galaxy's Edge, it just seemed with the rides and stuff, they just tried to get it out as fast as possible to kind of push it, when we would have waited another year if they had just taken their time. The Rise of the Resistance is the most broke down ride in the history of rides, and it's a fun ride to do.
Yeah.
And it sucks. I feel bad for people that have planned a trip. They wanted to ride this ride. They travel all this way. They get all the way there. They pay their money, and the ride breaks down. It breaks down I think the count here in Orlando, again, I don't know, California, is like every 28 minutes. It breaks down for 30 minutes. But that's like the average that they set. So it could go for 4 hours, but then be shut down for an hour and a half.
Well, you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Jay, is I have a friend on Twitter. She's Japanese. She lives in Japan, and she DMs me and she says, "Hey, I'm going to come out to California like in May." Right? This just happened like a few days ago. She goes, "I'm going to come out to California in May. I really want to go on Rise of the Resistance." She asked me, what's the refurb calendar look like, and what are the chances I can actually ride this thing, because it's always breaking down? And I'm like, okay, she's from Japan and she knows it. That's crazy, right? So this thing, it goes down quite a bit, and I think it goes down more actually in Florida for some reason.
I think so.
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
The thing,
Out
it's
in
like,
Cali, it's Radiator Springs Racers.
Yeah,
it was done today.
Oh my god,
it's like, all right, if you're gonna spend billions of dollars, let's fix these things up first, and then work our way out. Because if things are running, so now like Rise of the Resistance has been running on what they call B mode for it seems like a year here in Orlando. They just like have given up on fixing the animatronics. So if you know what that is, there's the A mode is where you get the full animatronics of Kylo Ren and everybody. The B mode is that they stop working and you just watch a movie, you know, of the same thing. So people are riding it and just like, oh, that was cool. And I'm like, I'm with them going, man, that was B mode. Like, you would love it so much more if it was A mode, like the whole experience. I get it. They're just trying to get it going.
And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong. When it's on B mode, not only do you not get the audio animatronic, but you also don't get the extra special effects, like the wind 100%. Blowing. Okay.
Yeah. So like there's the one scene where you're riding through and those giant guns are shooting at the Republic scene. And they're going back and forth. In B mode, they're just the lights come on and off. They don't move, and your car still does the motion as if they're jumping in front of you. So it's like you just stop and the lights come on and then they go and they stop, and you're kind of watching like, yeah, that stinks. And then B mode also in A mode, Kylo Ren sticks his lightsaber through the elevator shaft, and that's really a cool scene.
Yeah.
In B mode, you just hear him talking like through the elevator, and you're just kind of like, oh man, you're missing like some of the cool, like some of the reason that makes this. And I hate the sequel trilogy. There's no argument that, but it's like there's parts that is just really cool. That people are missing. So it's like it's too bad. You know?
When I think as Disney fans too, we kind of, and especially actually Walt Disney World fans, we have a little PTSD because of that Yeti over there at Expedition Everest, which hasn't worked in, you know, God knows how long. So when we see this stuff like not working, I get nervous. I'm like, are they going to fix it? You know, I mean, this is like, you know, that's why like recently we just had a brand new Toontown renovation, and they kind of like, you know, beautified the whole land, and a lot of stuff wasn't working. And I was really nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Now all this stuff is going to basically just sit there broken. Now, thankfully, construction walls are up and they're fixing it. So it's like, okay, cool. At least you're fixing it. But a lot of times I get nervous. I'm like, is this ever going to be fixed, or is it going to be the Yeti over in Everest?
Yeah.
And it's sad, you know?
And I think that's where, we see these numbers like 60 billion, and everywhere on Diz Twitter and everything else is just like, can you just clean up what you got first? It's good when it's working. Like, we like it. Don't you get it? We like it when it's working. Fix it. And then if you got any left over, let's, you know, but if you build something new and then, you know, 20 steps over, it looks like trash, you're making the problem worse. Like, and that's in my opinion, because
Right.
it's like a whole experience.
Well,
You
and
know?
I think too, I think right now the parks are kind of getting into this thing where it's like, for the longest time, for years now, anything that they would announce at Lucasfilm, any movie or anything, fans almost kind of blew it off because it was
Yeah.
like, oh, let's see if that actually gets made, right? Because it would always like fall through, whether it be like creative differences or this, that, and the other. And so it got to a point when they were making announcements at like Star Wars Celebration and what have you, people were like, yeah, right. When it actually premieres, I'll believe it. We're kind of getting to that point now with the parks, though, and that worries me. We're starting to get to that point with Daddy Josh, and even like with Iger, like fans are very skeptical of the 60 billion now. Is it really going to happen? That's a bad place to be. You don't want to ever get in a spot where your fan base doesn't trust what you're saying.
No, 100%. And I think what we're seeing is Disney as a whole company has seen not a lot of revenue coming in. They've lost a lot of money in their movies. Disney Plus is bleeding them dry, and that goes across the board for a lot of streaming services, unless you're Netflix.
Right.
It's just not working the way a lot of people thought that it was going to work. And Disney's pumping in millions of dollars in like original content for Disney Plus, but they're it's out there for public record. They're losing billions. The only thing that's making money for them are the theme parks. And it seems like a lot of people were saying that they kind of turned away from the theme parks a little bit. They're like, yeah, they're on cruise control, let them run, and we'll focus on this. And now, like, some of the stuff on the theme parks, and we're seeing for the first time Universal catching up here in Orlando. When the census report came out for the first time in their history, Islands of Adventure had more people going to their parks than all the Disney parks except Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is still king. Everyone from around the world goes to Magic Kingdom. It's just that will be a tough one to beat, if we can be honest. But I don't think Disney's seen that before. And the other crazy thing is, over the last year, this time around October, for the first time in their history, Universal's resorts were completely booked out for the entire month. They've never seen that. Now, Disney has a ton more resorts. So, like that, we're not comparing here. We're just saying that where we're seeing a lot of growth in one, we're seeing not so much in the other. And so I think that's really kind of, if that's all they got left that's actually generating money for them at this point, not saying that the others can't rebound or anything like that. They might be a little worried because, you got Epicverse coming, and you never know what that's going to be like. They really messed up with the Brightline train. I don't know if you know about that, but I think they might have saved themselves. So when the train system was being built, they went to Disney saying, hey, can you help us out and build money for a train station at Disney Springs? And this was during Chapek's run, and Chapek was like, we're Disney, you should be paying us. So they're like, well, we don't have that kind of money. Universal quickly stepped in and said, here's hundreds of acres of land. Here's I think they gave them $200 million when it's all said and done. Build a station where people can get off and go right into Epicverse, wherever, from Miami, Tampa, wherever you're doing this thing. That was a huge win for Universal. But now that Chapek is gone and Iger's came back in, I believe Iger worked it out with the system now, with the train system now, where you can get off the plane and catch a train, and it's going to take you somewhere on Disney property. But that wasn't in the works under Chapek.
Wow.
And because he was just like, we're Disney, like, you should want to, like, we'll make you money if you build it. And it's sad that there probably was a time where that was true, where that would work. But now it's like, Universal's going to help. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with all that. I'll tell you, I don't know how, again, in Disneyland, but I have no problem with Tiana's Bayou coming in. I think personally they should have changed Tom Sawyer's Island all to Tiana's Bayou. I think that would have looked really much better. Like there you can take that's more like Louisiana. Many people were upset that Splash Mountain was being shut down. So, but Splash Mountain was so run down. So we'll see. So I don't know if they were that upset in Disneyland or when all that was going on. So it was like a lot of those kind of decisions we're just making certain people like, I'm going to try something else. I'm just
Right.
going to try something else, and we'll go from there. So.
Well, and that's actually a perfect segue to the next topic, which is, should Disney be nervous about Epic Universe? And George, I'll start with you on this one. I mean, what do you think? I mean, okay, so it opens in 2025. We don't have a lot of concrete stuff for Walt Disney World. We do have a lot of that Josh D'Amaro kind of maybe blue sky stuff. Should they be worried right now? Should they not? Where do you kind of stand?
I think that's probably why we are getting the what ifs from Josh D'Amaro right now, just to kind of give all of us the satisfaction that something could potentially happen. And they're kind of just keeping it in limbo right now to actually see the numbers of what Epic Universe pulls in. Because I really seriously doubt Disney right now would use any kind of money towards anything right now if they don't necessarily need to. But I think if push comes to shove, I think if they see that Epic Universe is, it's pulling the crowds in, and where, people are still going to the parks, but they're taking those extra days instead of staying on property at Walt Disney World when they're going over to Universal for Epic Universe, then they may have to have history kind of repeat a little bit where Disney answered with Pandora for Animal Kingdom.
Right.
And I mean, I'm definitely for sure that, Dino Land is on its way out. It's definitely going to become something. The expansion beyond Big Thunder eventually is going to become something. But I feel like Disney is not going to do anything right away until they feel like it's necessary to do so.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you, George. I will say this. When it was under Chapek, and this might be Iger too. Actually, probably should blame Josh.
We always do.
What I think happened with Disney was they made it here in Orlando. They made it extremely complicated just to get into the park. You had to buy a ticket, then you had to make a reservation, then you had to download the app, and you're talking about people 50, 60, 70 years old that are like, well, back in my day, I just walked up and bought a ticket and went in. I didn't have to do all that. And there was hundreds. I mean, dude, reports of people showing up to Disney and not knowing what to do and being turned away. And I've had friends and family. They're like, hey, we want to go to Disney World. All right. They're like, well, you got to do this, this, this. And then even when I did it for them, it drove me crazy. I just kept telling them, just call them on the phone, because sometimes you buy a ticket at this time, you bought a ticket, then you might not get the right day you wanted to go. So you spent the money on a ticket, and now you can't go on the day you can only go, which was extremely frustrating. Then you had to call and wait on hold for 2 hours to get a refund and get that all taken care of. They really pushed away a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, can I just go to Universal and buy a ticket? And they're like, yeah, you can. Come on over. It's easy here. Oh, you know about that lightning lane? You just got to buy one ticket here, and you can go skip the lines, like with our Fast Pass system. They purposely did, like, at least in the local area, they did like little fun ads, Universal taking little jabs here and there on how easy it is to get in our parks. And I think what had happened is, like, the overall people were just not saying that they didn't like the theme park. They were just like, this is too frustrating for me right now, so let me just do something different. So I think that's where we saw some of the numbers dip for some, and the other ones kind of expand, because it was a nightmare. That's crazy. And then sometimes you wouldn't get the reservation right, and it just was, then you showed up and it was like, I don't know what's going on. And yet they made you, if you showed up at the park and you believed you had a reservation for that day and it wasn't, even though you bought a ticket, they make you go wait in this line that literally takes hours, and it is beyond frustrating. It's like the will call helpline or whatever, and you see it, and it's like backed up for this whole time that all that stuff was in place, and people just got really tired of it, And then, like, the lightning lane was so confusing for so many people. They didn't know how that worked, and some people were getting triple charged. They didn't know what they were doing, and it's then they had to go back in that same line and get that taken care of and get that. So I just think that it wasn't a park issue. It was I'm coming to have a vacation, and I don't want to deal with nonsense.
It was like an operational issue, more or less.
And that's what kind of turned people off. They're like, well, if they ever change this, we'll come back.
So, Jane, let me ask you. So, eventually, with the update to Dino Land, which is going to become something, now they're on the Encanto Indiana Jones train after
Right.
Zootopia. And then the Beyond Big Thunder. Essentially, when that does happen, that the whole point for Disney to do something like that is to get more bodies through those turnstiles. Do you think eventually that's going to become a bigger hinder when you get more people into the parks? Then that means you're going to have more reservations, more for Genie Plus. Do you think that Disney is digging themselves into a hole if they were to keep the reservation system if they continue with these expansion projects?
100%. I think there's a way that they can do it that's a little less confusing.
Right.
I don't think they thought it through. And I see what they were doing on paper. It was like, hey, you want to come? We're trying to limit the people coming there so people have a better experience. I totally respect that. They were trying to limit the amount of locals coming as well, because people like me with an annual pass, I can go every single day, and I'm an extra body in the park that didn't buy a ticket, that didn't buy their food, that didn't buy their water, that didn't pay for parking, that didn't pay for anything. I could just show up, ride some rides, take a couple photos, and go home. And they were looking for the people that were buying the ticket, that were buying the water, buying the food, all that stuff. That's what they needed to try to recoup from everything that they lost during the lockdowns. I think if they make it more, complicated and confusing, people will choose the other parks just because grandma wants to take grandson to a theme park, over the summer, and Universal's introducing Universal's changed this whole section of Minions. And spoilers, the whole other section where E.T. is and Woody Woodpecker Land and Dinosaur, it's going to turn into a whole Trolls, Trolls, like the movie Trolls and all that stuff. And so they're trying to adapt a lot more kid-friendly things as well and make it easier for people to get into the park. So it all depends on how they do it. I haven't bought a Lightning Lane since it first came out, because now I can adapt when I want to go, I know if I go Wednesdays at 4:00, the park's going to be pretty empty. And if I wanted to ride some, I could ride it whenever I want. But they have had a massive problem with that Lightning Lane too, where they have somehow a glitch gets in the system and more people bought a Lightning Lane than the regular lane. And we saw that at Space Mountain, and it's all been at the Magic Kingdom. We saw that at Space Mountain, at the Peter Pan ride, Haunted Mansion. The Lightning Lane would be massively long, and the regular line wouldn't. And they're like, we paid an extra $25 per person so we could skip the line. What is the deal here? Now you got people upset and, walking through. It's there's something in there that they just have to adjust.
Well, it's like what we were talking about earlier, where when the access media gets into the Star Cruiser for free, their experience is different because it's free. So when Fast Pass was free and you had a long line for the Fast Pass or whatever, it's like, okay, well, I didn't pay for it, so no big deal, no harm, no foul. But now you're paying for it. Right. So when you pay, like you said, the $25, $30, it stings now, And so I'm sure the city hall is super busy with all those complaints and all that. And Jayden,
rough.
It's rough. It's really rough.
You know what else that they do that's not they're not doing it correctly is the virtual queue. So one of our more popular rides here in Epcot is Cosmic Rewind, Guardians of the Galaxy ride. It's an awesome ride.
That's OG's favorite ride.
No,
yeah, I love it.
I'm a chicken though. I'm a chicken.
On a busy day, if you're not up at 6 a.m. to try to get into the virtual queue, you probably will miss it unless you pay that extra $20+ for a Lightning Lane to ride it that day. And it's weird because I feel like it's for people that have saved their money, that live, I don't know, in Chicago or wherever, and this is their one trip down.
Right.
Everyone should experience some of the cool stuff because that's what you remember, and that's what makes you want to come back. If you show up at the park, you have no idea that you needed to download the app. No idea that you needed to get a virtual queue to ride this ride. They do this with Tron too. No idea about the light, and you're these people walk around lost, and it's so people. So as someone that loves theme parks, it's that's sad to see that. I live here, so I did a lot of trial and error. I messed it up several times and this and that, but now I know. But it's because I live here and I go to the parks all the time.
Right, yeah. The same over here with me.
Yeah, and so then you have these people that are confused and they're broke. They're like, I just can't wait in the regular line. I just can't wait. Like,
That's what I get a lot.
I came all this way to ride this. You know, they had that issue with the Rise of the Resistance. Now they just opened up a regular line. Some people are waiting 3 hours to ride it, but they're like, this is why I'm here. I want to experience this. I'll wait. I've got my, got all my gaming systems in front of me. I got my phone. I could wait. And so I'm happy that they did that. I'm happy that they did that for Rise of the Resistance.
Now I've been a seasoned Walt Disney World vacationer for many years growing up because I live on the East Coast. More recently, I've found myself coming over to Disneyland a little bit more. So from the few times of going to Walt Disney World in the past, that's a year or so, I've seen a tremendous difference in the amount of crowds that are in the Walt Disney World parks compared to Disneyland right now. Like today, Disneyland, it was chaos. It was crazy for a Monday. In the state of the Walt Disney World parks are in now, as far as with the crowds, is there even a need right now to even have a virtual queue for Cosmic Rewind and Tron?
That's a good point.
I don't know. All I know is that right now the weekends are massively packed at Disney, and if I wanted to go to the Magic Kingdom on a Saturday, that's the only time I have to make a reservation is for Magic Kingdom on a Saturday, and I have the top tier annual pass. But any other park, I'm good to go at any time. Park hopping and all that stuff, I'm good to go.
Nice.
But during the week, it's like it looks like I could walk on the ride, but they still have that in place. And with Tron, I was able to ride Tron early, and I rode it in Shanghai Disney. And I just don't care to ride it. It's not that it isn't fun. It's just like I just want to deal with the headache. If you never dealt with a virtual queue, if you get it, it tells you got to be back at 2:00 boarding number 70 through 80. So make sure you have your phone out, and you got to watch your app, and you got to make sure, because sometimes it'll skip ahead or sometimes it'll be pushed back. So if they had an issue with the ride and you were scheduled to be there at 2, you might not be able to get on until 4. Right? So you got to watch it. So now you have to replan your entire day to make sure you're there, but they could change it on you at the last minute. So you can get in line and be like, well, the virtual queue, we had to push it back because we had some issues or the ride broke down or whatever. So, some people that woke up at 6 a.m. just to hopefully, for the love of God, please let me get this. They got it with their family, but then it's pushed back 4, 6, 8. And then some people that actually got it on a busy day, they go, sorry, we just can't get you in today.
It's crazy. So, it's crazy. And Jay Shear, you don't live close to these places. You're in Colorado, right?
Not anymore. So, yeah, used to
live in Cali. Now, so what's been your experience like? Because you're a tourist now, basically. You're the family from Colorado that Chapek used to talk about.
Yeah, it's really interesting because my wife and I had passes for over a decade, so we would go all the time to Disneyland. Right. 1 year we actually had the passes that they've discontinued that you could buy for both coasts.
Oh yeah.
So we went a couple of times to Walt Disney World in that year, and we would go to Disneyland all the time. The experience is a lot different, and to back up some of what Jay is saying, I do want to contrast this with Universal too. But to back up what Jay is saying, it's a far more difficult experience as a traveler now, because I just bought tickets for Disneyland. You guys know I'm going to be out there in November. If anybody sees me in the park, say hi. It was really expensive. I'm taking my nephew one day, and he is in school, so I got to wait for a time where he's not in school. So I buy a ticket the week of Thanksgiving, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to pay $80 for this kid who's an 8-year-old to get his ticket, and then I'm going to pay like an extra $25 for Genie Plus because we want to be able to ride stuff and it's so crowded. Dude, $169 later, I'm adding Genie Plus to the top of that ticket and going like, this gift for my nephew just got crazy expensive. It got way more expensive than I was thinking. And having been there using Disney Plus back in, or Genie Plus, I should say, Genie Plus back in February, I used to love going to Disney. My wife and I would go on date nights, and you could just do whatever was available to you that night. And if you got lucky to go on like a bigger ride, it was cool. Now I feel like if you don't have Genie Plus, because I can't go there whenever I want to, if I don't have Genie Plus, I might not get on the rides that I want to get on that I haven't been on in 9 months, 10 months, maybe a year. So I feel like I got to buy it. It gets really expensive. And then I've got to be on my phone all day. And that's probably the worst part of it all, is that I don't like being on my phone all day. I'd rather set my phone, leave it in the hotel room, and just be able to enjoy the parks without any other noise, right?
Right.
The parks have enough stimuli that I don't need my phone, but now I do need my phone, and that bums me out a lot because I get distracted by that. So the only comparison I'll make to Universal, and I think, Jay, you brought up that they're putting in Trolls, they're putting in Minions. The only thing that I tried to get into Universal because I did the same thing with Knott's when I used to live in Southern California. I tried to get into Knott's as opposed to Disney, and the thing that my wife and I faced was those parks don't seem like they were built for people over 40. Because the experience I would have is like, I'm going around, I'm like, okay, there's kid rides, but those rides are full-on kid rides. They weren't made for me. Like, it's not like Mr. Toad's where I can be like, I remember Mr. Toad's, and like I'll go on a ride. No, it's not like that. It's like, no, this is like a legit kid ride, right? It's like, so there's the kid rides, and then there's the thrill rides, and I'm like, I can do one of those per day, otherwise I'm done, man. And the screens are almost worse because it makes me dizzy. So like, that's the only thing is I think that Universal, if they want to take over Disney, like if Epic Universe wants to draw the Disney crowds away from Disney and put them in Epic Universe, I think they need to meet more of the audience, more audience needs, right? They need a broader audience. They need to broaden that audience out a little bit.
Like more attractions, like akin to like a Pirates of the Caribbean, something like these, like kind of like these chill rides that everyone can go on. And there's because even some of the other stuff, like even the Forbidden Journey, which isn't necessarily a coaster,
right?
It's pretty intense though. Right? Or like Transformers. It's not a coaster,
they definitely
but
were going for the, hey, teenagers don't want to be at Disney World, so come be at cool kids where we got Harry Potter and everything like that. But Universal just released a brand new Minions ride, and man, did they miss? They got rid of Shrek 4D, which was one of those like pirate rides that everyone can do together and enjoy. That new Minions Mayhem ride is terrible.
Jay, you just crushed OG's dreams because Minions
so
is his favorite franchise.
No, I agree.
Have you got anybody here done it?
No, we didn't do it. I saw it on YouTube and it looked absolutely. You stand, right?
It's
like
you stand on a conveyor belt, and it's a video game. You just shoot the ball. So
yeah, it looks terrible. It looks absolutely terrible.
I've done it. When you first do a ride for the first time, it's new, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and all that stuff. But
yeah,
I'm like, unless it's a walk on, I'm good. You know, it's like Men in Black is better. Like you get a gun there, and you could sit, and it's like Buzz Lightyear, but a little bit older. You know, and it's like I'd rather do Men in Black because at least you're sitting. You don't want to be. You're standing all day in the heat anyway. Last thing you want to do is get on a ride and you're standing with all your bags and they give you a gun, you know, and you're like, all right, shoot the boxes, everyone. Then show your friends who did the most. And I'm like, y'all got rid of Shrek for this, man.
That's funny. Now, I gotta ask you, Jay, what do you think about like I've been talking a lot on this channel about, okay, so I think Epic Universe the first year is going to be packed. I think it's going to be very successful. It's the new thing. There's a lot of energy behind it. My only thing that I've been kind of saying is I think that I think there's a good chance it might cannibalize maybe like the studio park, right? Where people go, well, hey, we'll do Epic, and hey, we'll do Islands, but we'll skip the studio park. It's kind of like the weaker of the three. Do you think that's a possibility here when Epic comes onto the scene, or do you think the families are really going to maintain what they've been doing and just add an extra day with Epic? What are your feelings on that?
I think to be honest, it's going to be all about the Harry Potter fans. Because what Universal does here, you know, you can take the Hogwarts Express from one park to the other.
No,
and
true.
That is pretty awesome. Like I still like that. You get in a train, you know, and it's a full, like they knocked that one out of the park. So the Harry Potter people that come from all over, like they literally live and die, like they want that immersion, you know?
Right.
So they'll walk through Universal, like, don't look at me. Then they'll get into like Diagon Alley, and it's like, I'm home, and they got their wands out, and they're talking British, and they're doing all this thing, and they're taking photos, watching the shows. They get on Diagon Alley, you know, they get on the Hogwarts Express, and it takes them right to Hogsmeade, and they're just doing their thing. And it's for some reason it's really different here than Universal in Hollywood. When I was there, I literally went through Hogsmeade and it was like empty. And I'm like, this is
Wow.
wild, man. Like, I've never seen this part because it's a copy. It's still the same. It's just a, different state. But usually this part is so crowded in Orlando.
Right.
Like, I never get to see this part because all I see is we're just trying to get through the people, for crying out loud. And I'm like, this is really cool. I actually get to see what it looks like without a lot of people in it. And, so I think that'll be a big deal. And if they add some Nintendo stuff to try to connect it all, then maybe they'll have something. Like, the rumor is right now where Poseidon's Fury, it was really weird because Poseidon's Fury was a fantastic show. I loved it. I tried to do it as much as possible, and it was a full family thing, but it was a stand-up the whole time too, which can be annoying for people that have been in the park all day. You guys know, like, people that don't go to the parks regularly, man, they're there like 6 hours. They look like they're about to go to the hospital. Like stuff's going on, man. They're like, their body's like, what the heck did you do to me, man? Like, what's going on? There's nothing that an ice cream can't cure it. So they refurbished it, and then they reopened it, and then like 2 weeks, they're like, we're about to close it down forever. And we're like, wait a minute here.
That's wild.
What's going on, man? Like, what's happening? And then the rumors are hitting that, and even Universal trolled people about building a Zelda section, right? And it would be perfect. That would be the perfect spot. There's so much land that they could build extra. But again, that's on the island side, like you said.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you know what happened with that? Because they refurbed it, right? And so it seemed like that the intention was to keep that. And then the Super Mario Brothers box office started coming in. And they were like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe this can be Zelda. Let's do that, That's interesting.
It's very interesting because, like, the one thing that Disney has that Universal doesn't have are, like, it's like landmark photos. Like, everybody wants a picture in front of the castle. I don't care who you are, how much you hate Disney. If you're standing in front of that Cinderella castle, you want it. It's the most photographed landmark in all of America. It's been like that for 20 years.
Yeah.
People from all over the world want that picture in front. And I have to see all these weird people every day doing poses and trying to get that perfect spot in front of that Cinderella. Yeah, everything. Like, put their feet up. The people come dressed like full tuxedo, wedding gown, like just to get a picture in front of it, even though, like, and then they leave. It's wild. Like they just do all kinds of stuff to get that photo at a certain time when the sun's going down, and then they leave. It's something Universal doesn't really have. So if they were to build like that Zelda castle or something, maybe, I don't know. Like, but that's a great point. That's something that they don't really have. That the iconic Universal world is kind of it, but it's not a comparison to the castle.
It's not the same. I want to pick your brain, Jay, on, okay, so you recently went out to Hollywood. That was your first time at Universal Hollywood, right? That was like back in February or March or something like
February,
that?
yeah.
February. So what are your thoughts? Like, because it's Universal in Florida is a whole other animal. I mean, it's a whole other beast, right? What are your thoughts about the one out here? And now, because you're a Florida guy, you came over here, you saw this one. What are you feeling?
It's small.
Yeah, it's small.
Riding the escalators everywhere could get annoying.
And they go on forever. It's
like the first time you do it, you're like, whoa, this is so cool. But then you're like, all right, how long do I gotta go? The back tour lot was fantastic. I missed
Best
that
part
from the Universal days here in Orlando. Like, that was I could ride that twice. Like, that was great. Seeing the Back to the Future, oh my gosh, man, that was awesome. Yeah. And you guys still have a Jaws thing, which is my all-time favorite ride that they got rid of for Harry Potter. Thank you. But the whole Jaws sequence, we went there to see, of course, to check out Super Nintendo World, which I loved. But if you're not a video game person, that world will give you a headache quick because all the noise and the buzzing and like the video game stuff. If you're not used to it, you probably will get annoyed quick. But I enjoyed it. The rides weren't that great, but it was something new. The Jurassic World was really cool because that's different.
Yeah.
But walking through Harry Potter was shocked. Like it seemed like the top part of it was empty. So the Life of Pets ride, I was actually live streaming with Park Hoppin, and I was showing all the rest of the park, like Harry Potter, and we went to the Secret Life of Pets. There was no one in line for that. I walked on with the
Wow.
live stream and rode it. I thought it was cool.
Oh, it's a great ride. I love that ride.
Um,
The queue is really clever how they arrange the furniture to kind of guide you through it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, you know?
Yeah, see, that's the kind of stuff. If Universal like really focuses on that kind of like total engagement,
Yeah.
from like line all the way in, then they'll have something pretty awesome. They do have something different. They have like a Minions playground water area
Yeah.
there that we don't have. So like if you want to drop the kids off, and just let them get wet, that's great. Wet kids all day in the sun. The view, like we don't have mountains in Florida, so the views from the top were absolutely gorgeous. So like that was cool. But it's really small.
Yeah.
It's really small. I walked around it like 3 times and tried to ride everything while I was there once. And the only places that had people was Super Nintendo World. I guess because that was the main draw. And it was like on a Wednesday, so people were still in school and work for whatever reason. But yeah, really different.
It's wild. It's wild. And that Toad Cafe, I really enjoyed that over at Super Nintendo World. I thought that was kind of cool, Yeah, I was kind of actually, it was funny because I was like, before I went to Nintendo World, I was kind of critical. I was like, how are they going to build a Mario Kart ride with no speed to it? Like, who comes up with that, right? And then I rode it, and I'm like, okay, they do a pretty good job at making it seem like you're going fast. Like it was faster than I actually thought it was going to
go. I have to disagree on that one.
Go for it.
Because I can't say too much, but I have a family member who worked on the original concept of what it was supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, actually, not a family member, but a family member married the person who was working on it, and it was supposed to be not like super fast, but it was supposed to be where the car would have these special effects to it, where when you make a sudden turn, it would seem like it would tip on its side and then come back.
Cool.
It would do a 360 rotation and get back on. And she even got to test it out because her husband they took her into like a empty abandoned warehouse where they were testing out the vehicles, and because of like the budgeting and everything for the land and the ride itself, it didn't go through. They cut out everything that was supposed to be, and they scrapped it and went back to square one. Now he didn't get to work on what was now because the company essentially left that project, and Universal went with another company to do for Nintendo. So I was very underwhelmed going on it because it just seemed like I'm looking at these holograms and they're not in placement with where the track is. It feels like I'm just looking at them and they're floating in midair.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of turn your head, then do that. You have to do like 3 different things at once to shoot your targets. And it's just like, it's too much. Like I was expecting something. When you think of Mario Kart, you expected something a little bit more. Even when it comes down to Orlando, that attraction, if it's the same as Hollywood, I probably wouldn't enjoy it. The one I'm really looking forward to is the Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that thing's gonna be the star player. I mean, with the fake track that like the break in the track and you go over it and all that, that's gonna be the star player. I mean, you would have to try really hard to mess that up. That is such a brilliant like idea right there. But yeah, that's an interesting point, George. Now, see, so maybe because you knew that going into the Mario Kart ride, you had that kind of inside backstory.
The mentality, yeah, because I got to see little videos of them testing out and it looked really cool. And knowing that that's what it was supposed to be, and I thought, ooh, that's going to be a slam banger of attraction. And then you go into something like this, and I'm like, it's that peanut butter and jelly boba ball milkshake all over again.
I don't mind the 3D rides, but Universal seems to really like them.
Yeah.
And it's like I just and to me, I'm like, don't. I can see where it's a little more convenient to make that because if it rains and all that stuff, it's like you could still
Right.
like the Transformers ride and the Spider-Man ride here in Orlando are identical. You just have one is Transformers and one is Spider-Man, and they're the exact same ride. And so the only one that I think they did really well was like Flight of Passage is like my favorite ride ever. So
Isn't that a beautiful experience, Jay? Like that is such a surreal. I couldn't believe it. I got off that thing going like, oh my god, it's almost like the afterlife or something. It's so crazy, man.
Yeah, that's the only ride I'll literally wait over an hour for again now, and I've done it like 100 times. It's just like and they're getting ready to update it with like part 2 and like just make it. Oh, I just can't wait. So
I wish I could like that ride. I can't do it, dude. I get on any of those screen rides and I get off like my head is I'm breaking out in a cold sweat. My wife's looking at me like, "What is wrong with you, dude? Are you gonna throw up?" Like it's like I can't do it. I wish I could do it.
So you can't do even Star Tours.
Even Star Tours, I get off. I'll take off my hat and just like have this layer of cold sweat on my head. I'm like, I gotta take it easy for another 15 minutes before I can do something else.
Wow, that's wild, man. That's wild. Sometimes I get like that. Like I got like that actually one time on Transformers out here. At one time, kind of recently, a few months ago, and I never got sick on that ride, except for that one time. And I've been on it since. I haven't gotten sick. I think that the glasses were like, maybe they were tweaked or something, so it made me nauseous. But yeah, usually I'm pretty okay, unless it's like teacups or something, and then we're like going like super fast. Then I get nauseous. But these screen ones I can pretty much hang, but not you, Jay, huh?
I'm too old, dude.
You're too old.
I don't know. Yeah, it's too much for me, man.
Oh man,
I've been on all those rides when they've broken down and the lights come on. Transformers, Spider-Man, Flight of Passage, all that stuff.
Oh, that's wild. So what does that look like? Flight of Passage when the lights go on? Because you like break away from like the wall, right? It's kind of weird.
It's like there's like a little ramp, and it just like folds behind you, like when you go into like Pandora. And so when the lights go on, you can see it clearly, and you can see like the screen looks filthy as all get out, like. And you dust that thing off, but you can't tell when the lights are low, you know. So it's pretty wild.
B mode is a guy doing hand puppets. Like,
dude. When the lights came on, like the river journey, like the Pandora River. When the lights came on that, you're like, oh man, this really takes you out. Like this looks terrible.
Oh no!
Like it's amazing what a little low light can do. So.
Some low light, some black light, and you're good. But you're sure those
amazing, man. It's amazing. So
that actually ended up being my favorite park, Jay, was Animal Kingdom.
It's mine.
Is it yours too?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Good.
I just love everything about that park.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was with George, and we walked in, and like before
he didn't even get through. We didn't even get through the turnstile, and he was already sold.
I told him, okay, this is my favorite part. Because going into it, I thought Epcot, and Epcot's awesome. Epcot's like, I love Epcot. But Animal Kingdom took the crown for me. That is just a gorgeous park. Absolutely loved it.
100.
Yeah. Well, Jay, awesome having you on the channel, brother. Always welcome back on. Would love to talk parks with you again. Everybody at home, subscribe to Park Hoppin on YouTube. Follow this man on Twitter.
Awesome.
Check him out. Yeah, it's so funny on Twitter. It cracks me up when Krista like tags you with all those animal pics. Like, I'm like, why aren't you tagging him on like this little porcupine and stuff? It cracks me up, dude.
It's my park hopping buddy. Yeah, fat rats and all kinds of stuff. She just thinks it's so funny, so I'm like, whatever.
It's hilarious, man. I see my timeline, like, why'd you tag Jay on this stuff? But Jay, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. And if you could just remind everybody at home where they can find you on social media, what's going on, everything on your side.
It's all my social media stuff is Drunk 3PO, but man, if you want theme park stuff, it's Park Hoppin. Check it out. You can see me over there. I'm usually live once a week from some theme park. I think we're going to be live at Halloween Horror Nights a lot this month. And Hollow Scream at SeaWorld, all that. And then we also have one for Not So Scary, Mickey Minnie's Not So Scary Halloween. Krista will be doing that one as well. So, yeah, a lot of Halloween cool stuff coming up.
Awesome. Any news on your? I know you had recently you had a second offer for your the backers for your novel.
Achromatic Chronicles Blue. Yeah.
Right. Anything coming out with that? Any news on that in the future?
Yeah. Well, if the first one did so well, book 1, that we're in the middle of working on book 2, Achromatic Chronicles. I'm not going to give it away yet, but what color it's going to be. But yeah, I just made a family fun story adventure so that everybody, I think everybody would love. Been working on it for several years now, and first one did really well. It did over $100,000 in like the first month, and
Nice.
it's pretty. I was blown away. So now we're gonna finish the series. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, and George, if you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media and all that good stuff, brother.
Absolutely. You can find me on X at Disney George. You could also find me on the podcast, A Walk with Walt, where we dive into a lot of the rich nostalgia history of the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Walt Disney himself. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Perfect. And down below, last but not least, we got Mr. Jay Shear. Jay, if you could let everybody home know where they could find you on social media and what's going on with everything going on in your life and
yeah, you can find me over here on X at Jay Shear. Definitely recommend following Jay as well, because I will say this about Jay. He is fun. He is a fun dude. So, like, I love it. People will try and troll him. He'll retweet them. It's the best, man. He's great. Follow Jay for sure. If you want to check out my interview with Jay talking about Achromatic Blue,
yes.
I actually tried to get some deep stuff out of Jay, and we went pretty deep with it. What was the purpose behind the story? What made him think about it? It's fantastic stuff. So go over to How Stories Work with Jay Shear and check out my interview with Jay. And yeah, if you want to watch our short film, our table read is coming out tomorrow. Part 1 of our table read is coming out tomorrow, so you definitely got to check that out. If you're a fan of stories, I think you'll like it a lot. It's a superhero thriller.
Cool.
And then we're filming the actual short film in November, so stay tuned to that channel as well for all that good stuff.
Cool. And we're doing Story Geeks for the Ahsoka, the weekly Ahsoka.
Doing Story Geeks with Ahsoka. Yeah, we're talking about Ahsoka over on the Story Geeks. So
cool.
We're doing that every week. We haven't selected a day to record this week, so we got to select a day.
That's true. And Jay, if you ever want to join us on that, I don't know if you're down to talk Ahsoka with us, but hey, we got 2 more episodes we got left.
2 more episodes. 2 more episodes.
So come and join us, man. We break it down. We talk about it. Our rankings, whole thing. So it's fun.
All I know is everyone needs to be ready, because the day is coming when Jay and Orange Grove 55 are going to have a talk about which is better, Disneyland or Disney World.
Yes.
We're going to talk about parades, popcorn buckets, characters. All I'm saying is my park got shut down by a real black bear crawling around the
True.
It'll be a fun. I got to get to California.
Yeah.
And it'll be a lot of fun. That debate will take place long after we're gone too. It's just that's the fun part about like theme parks.
Absolutely.
That debate will happen. I'm sure I'll lose, but it'll be fun. So.
Well, again, thank you, Jay, thank you, George, and thank you, Jay Shear, for coming on, talking shop with us today. And everybody home, thank you so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts that we discussed today. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.